DEA was used to calls about dealers in suspected drug houses, so they were surprised when an NYPD officer called them about a strange story about a team of adult entertainment waitresses who were targeting rich men. He told them how one particular guy went to a bar, met a server, and flirted with her. Then he woke up in a hotel room with no recollection of what happened between meeting the server and waking up in the hotel. All he remembered was sipping his drink while talking to the cute girl, and bam, everything went black after that. However, he did know a couple things. His credit card had been charged thousands of dollars for drinks and dances he didn't remember paying for. There were also service tips, lots of service tips. He also noticed several pictures he didn't remember taking. The girl he flirted with snapped some very problematic pictures, the kind he didn't want his wife and family seeing. The NYPD wouldn't take the case at first. Many people complain about having their credit card stolen on a drunken night, especially in New York. But the man had evidence, and the investigation moved forward. The DEA had no idea what they were getting themselves into. It all started in 2013 when Samantha Bharbash came up with a system for scamming guys at the clubs she and her friends worked at. The individuals involved were Barbash, the leader, and 3 other women who followed her system: Roslyn Keogh, Karina Pascucci, and Marcy Rosen. The women came from different backgrounds, but they all shared a common goal. They loved money and were willing to scam the disgusting rich men who wandered into their club night after night. In a Robin Hood-like tale, these women missed one crucial step. They stole from the rich and gave to themselves. Though the women had worked in the so-called gentleman club business for some time, they had yet to discover what they were capable of. The film Hustlers depicts the Cunning Quartet as erotic dancers, one of the film's hallmark gimmicks. But in reality, they weren't all dancers. Barbash made sure to note in her J-Lo lawsuit that at the time, she wasn't a dancer, but a hostess and a server. She saw dozens and dozens of men walk into her club every weekend. These particular men were dressed in expensive suits, wore $5,000 watches, and usually had nice wedding bands hidden deep inside their pockets. She realized that these men had a lot to lose, more than just thousands of dollars in disposable income. So, she devised a plan. This plan ensured that on paper at least, they could scam these men and not have to worry about getting caught. What were these guys going to say? I got robbed at an adult club? Their wives would probably have a few questions of their own. The way Barbash saw it, there was a golden opportunity just lying on the table. Someone needed to pounce, and it might as well be her. That's when she assembled the team. Keogh was Barbash's right-hand woman, the Brad Pitt to George Clooney's Danny Ocean. They taught other women how to pull off the scam, small step by small step. Every weekend night, they'd go out to a bar near the financial district where most of these guys hung out. Barbash approached men, flirted with them, talked about their work and personal lives, all while drinking tons of alcohol. Then, Barbash texted the other girls and told them to come over. She had one on the hook. The other girls, Keogh, Pascucci, and Rosen, would show up and butter the now intoxicated dude even more. Barbash started dancing in clubs at 19. In 2013, she was 30, so she knew how to manipulate men into doing what she wanted, which typically involved draining their credit cards. Due to the bar's proximity to Wall Street, many were finance guys working on Wall Street. Bankers, traders, brokers, investors, hedge fund managers. Barbash watched them come into her club for years. Some of these guys spent $100,000 a night, usually pulled from their 6 or 7 figure limit credit cards. The tricky part was having your bucket in the right spot when the Wall Street money started raining. Barbash knew a way to find those sweet spots. She realized that there were 2 different types of men the quartet went after: the disrespectful guys and the guys who were white knights. The rude guys could be manipulated with alcohol and attention. As mentioned earlier, Barbash would call the other hustlers over to the bar. They would flirt like crazy, make him feel important, then they would invite him to their gentleman's club. Once they got to the club, the quartet would run the crap out of his credit card over a period of several weeks. They'd accumulate 5-figure tabs on some nights. Other times, they'd swipe for 6-figure sums. After they swiped their cards enough times, the quartet took the men to a hotel where they had a whole trap set for their target to fall into. When the man entered his room, he lay down on the bed expecting something dirtier than dancing. Unwilling to solicit promiscuous activity themselves, the quartet outsourced. They recruited street workers to come up to the hotels and pose for blackmailing photographs. So when the men woke up the next morning, he would have a good reason not to report the scam to the police. As for the white knights, they required a completely different approach. Q explained that while some men visit clubs to drink and enjoy the show, other men, however, go to fall in love. They walk in and see beautiful women trapped in an exploitive relationship with greedy club owners and disgusting patrons. In other words, they saw dancers as damsels in distress, and they were the only ones who could save them. Keo says these types of men are the easiest to bilk. Once they say I love you, the dancer knows they'll give her whatever she wants. There's no need to flirt and intoxicate them, just go along with his fantasy and collect money. Keo says that men bought her cars, pay her rent, and purchase expensive jewelry for her, all in the hopes that they'll quit and let the man save her from the dancer's life. While rude guys and white knights might seem different, they all fit into the overall strategic process. This process is called fishing, though Barbash preferred a more subtle term, marketing. Barbash and associates marketed a lot during 2013. They made more money than they could have ever imagined, especially Barbash, who took home the largest cut. She and the other hustlers bought new cars, clothes, and other luxury items. But the work wasn't always easy. They often had to work all night, trying to seduce drunk, handsy men into a club, then a hotel room. Barbash recalls not getting off until 6 a.m., with just enough time to take her young daughter to school on weekday mornings. She admitted in subsequent interviews that the stress was heavy after a couple of months of constant scamming. Each target took weeks to scam without them noticing, especially the rude types. Each time the target partied at the gentleman's club, they had to swipe the card. It would have been much easier to steal the entire payload in one swipe. Barbash admits to succumbing to this temptation a time or two. It was also tempting to break another rule of Barbash's system: only scam targets on the client list. Normally, Barbash chose targets she knew. These individuals were on her list of clients she'd entertained in the past. Other targets belonged to other hustlers' clients' lists. By only scamming people they knew, the girls could keep track of who they were scamming and how much they were stealing. However, the girls got reckless after a while. They'd see wealthy-looking men sitting at the bars. By that point, they knew the right type to look for and buy them rounds of shots to get a conversation started. Without knowing these guys, the quartet would save time by seducing them, drugging them, and eventually luring them to the gentleman's club to drain their cards in one swipe. These sloppily scammed targets didn't remember how they ended up in a hotel, but they noticed a massive credit card bill pop up on their phone the next day. The man who contacted the NYPD was the wrong guy to scam. He doesn't remember much about the night he was scammed, but he did happen to have a recording of the girl who scammed him. No one has officially identified who this dancer was. Keo conveniently says she doesn't remember the girl, though she does remember the amount of money she stole from him, $17,000. Keo also recalls how the man came to her and begged for his money back, saying he had a mortgage to pay. Keo responded with a cold no. She was running a business after all. What she didn't count on was how desperate the man truly was. He felt his only option was to seek out the authorities. The DEA eventually caught the dancer who drugged and scammed her guy and interrogated her using the recording as evidence. She couldn't deny her involvement, so the NYPD offered her a deal. The DEA said she could get off easier if she helped them expose the other hustlers by going undercover. She agreed. Before long, the dancer was mic'd up and sitting in a bar with Keo and Barbash. Barbash recalls how the girl was acting weird the whole night. She tried to get her and Keo to drug a random guy's drink. Barbash thought her associate was just eager to score some scam money, but Keo had a hunch that something was up. Barbash told her that she was paranoid and not to worry about it. In hindsight, Barbash said she should have listened to Keo, because not too long after the sting, investigators obtained enough data to arrest the Cunning Quartet. After only 4 months of scamming, Barbash, Keo, Rosen, Paschusi, and a few other dancers were all arrested on the same day. Despite committing several felonies, none of the hustlers saw any prison time. Barbash, the ringleader, received 5 years probation. Marcy Rosen and Karina Paschusi were sentenced to weekends in jail for 4 months and 5 years probation as part of a plea deal. The hustlers' probationary time is now up. These days, they live relatively normal lives, though they may never live down those 4 months in 2013 when they scammed some of New York's wealthiest men and inspired a Hollywood blockbuster. As for the lawsuit, a judge dismissed the case in May 2020. Samantha sued J-Lo for $40 million while claiming the actress misrepresented her in the film. The judge ruled that the film was based on a 2015 article written by Jessica Pressler called The Hustlers at Scores and never mentioned Samantha's name in the movie. While the article was written specifically about the quartet scam, the film took its own creative liberties. Click here to watch one of these next videos. And let us know in the comments section if you think the punishment the judge gave out to them was appropriate for the crimes they committed.